You are listening to episode 66 of the Style and Stewardship podcast. On this episode, I am sharing a lot of thoughts on some of the issues that I have been having, some chronic things that have been going on for a while that I have been trying to address and get to the root cause of. So I'm getting personal as per usual and just sharing this in hopes that it will um, just encourage you to be your own health and wellness advocate, to learn and to know your own body, and also just sharing some things that I've learned along the way as I am continuing to learn. I am not an expert, but I am continuing to learn all the different things that affect our bodies negatively and things that help, things that hinder our health. And I hope that this is something that you can just kind of think about as far as the different things that you may be experiencing if and when you do. Lord willing, you don't. But I wanted to share these with you, and I will keep you posted on some of the things that I'm finding out. So, I'm sharing about chemicals and toxins, environmental exposures that many of us have, and what we can do about that. So, obviously, you know that I'm going to talk about eating real food and all of that good stuff. But listen into the episode. You're listening to the Style and Stewardship podcast. So, what is stewardship? That is exactly what we'll be talking about in each and every episode of this podcast. As Christ followers, I think it's so important that we manage every single area of our lives to the best of our ability. Not perfectly, but intentionally in our own unique way, and holding on to God's grace every single step of our journey. On this podcast, I'll be sharing thoughts, things that God's teaching me, and transparent talks. My hope is that when you listen, you'll feel equipped, you'll be encouraged, and more than anything, I hope that you're inspired to live out your day-to-day calling in your own unique way. This podcast is for the woman who wants to hear, "Well done." Before we get into this episode, I definitely want to just go ahead and do a medical disclaimer. Nothing that I share on this podcast or in this particular episode is to treat, cure, or diagnose any medical condition. Please take all of those concerns that you may have to your doctor. I am not an expert. I am not a doctor. I am just someone who is sharing things for informational purposes only. So please consult your doctor. On this episode, I really wanted to talk about something that I am currently experiencing in my own wellness journey. And I think that it makes complete sense for me to tell you all of my personal business. I'm just joking. But I have really gotten to the point where I know that there are certain things that I have to address. If you listen to episode 61 about the health and hydration episode, I'll link it in the show notes. But that's kind of where I shared some of the tests that I got done, how I got a glucometer just to test my own blood sugar and all of those things, because there are things that I truly want to get in front of when it comes to things that have run in my family or things that I know that I'm more susceptible to just because of different patterns of eating and lifestyle and things like that. So, type 2 diabetes is something I really would love to avoid, and that is something that is completely controllable by diet and lifestyle changes. And many people think, it's type 2 diabetes. You can't get rid of it once you have it, but you absolutely can. So when it comes to other areas of um, my health and my wellness, overall, thank God, I am healthy. There are some things that I do struggle with. The biggest thing that I struggle with, and this has been going on for the last 3 years, is just chronic sneezing, runny nose, brain fog. Um, Recently, I've started dealing with some joint pain, and about a month ago or so, I actually no, I'm sorry, it's been 4 months now. sorry, I'm thinking about a different test that I had. It's been about 4 months, and I went to a dermatologist, and I had just my skin checked out because I get, weird breakouts and stuff like that. And I went to get my skin checked out. And he basically said, it looks like there's something autoimmune going on, something with inflammation. And this may sound completely unrelated to the fact that I have chronic rhinitis. I'm constantly sneezing. Um, every single morning, basically, I'm taking a Claritin, loratadine, or I am taking nettle, stinging nettle on the natural side of things. I'm taking echinacea. I'm doing all of these things to, using a diffuser, using all of these things to just help with this whole sneezing allergic situation. Not only that, there are so many foods that I cannot eat and feel well the next day. And I don't mean my stomach hurts or anything like that. I mean, I have body aches and I will there's certain foods that I'll eat and immediately I have sneezing fits, and it's gotten progressively worse. So, of course, I'm a huge believer in being my own health and wellness advocate, and I'm a huge believer in encouraging you to do the same because if you go to one doctor and they only see one side of what you may be dealing with, and there is there's a specialist that steps in because you want to get this other thing figured out. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. You go to one and they're not like communicating with one another. And you have to get paperwork from this one, and it's a whole, what I mean, process. And the most interesting thing about that, I think it's awesome that we have specialists. But what's interesting is if we're not taking a functional approach to things, if we're not looking at the whole picture of our health, we might think that all of these things are unrelated. But as I started doing my own digging, I've done several elimination diets in the past. One of the best ways to figure out if you have food sensitivities and food allergies like I do, and even if you just have really random things that you think have nothing to do with anything else. So, for example, you have stiffness when you wake up, you have brain fog, you crave a ton of sugar, you have gastrointestinal issues, you have bloating or chronic fatigue. All of these things may seem like, oh, I'll just go to the doctor. And you should. At the same time, you should also know what is normal and what is not normal in general, but what's normal and what's not normal for you. No one knows your body better than you do. And being armed with the information of what is, not normal for you is so, 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 so key um, in knowing how to proceed from there. So many things can be affected by food, and so many things can be affected by our environment and the toxins in our environment, the toxins in our water. And this is why I consistently talk about eating food in its whole state. Because how hard would it be to narrow down if you did have a food allergy or some sort of food sensitivity or intolerance if you're eating things from this fast food place, you're eating things out of this package, you're eating things, all over the place. How do you pinpoint what is causing the issues that you may be having? And so many of the things that are on the market have toxins that other countries do not even use and that they are banned in other countries, but we are still putting them in food here. I was just reading today about pesticides and reading about labeling. So there are a lot of like grassroots acts that try to basically get companies to be honest about what is in the products. If you go to the store right now and you pick up one of the most popular yogurt brands, I won't name any names, but if you turn that over and you look at the ingredients, you might notice something that was not there several years ago. And it'll have a usually like a it's usually towards the bottom, and it will actually say made with genetically engineered ingredients. And it says that on many of the packages now because of some of these grassroots acts that came out, and they're saying, no, it's not right that we don't know what we're consuming. We're paying for something, and you should disclose everything that is in this product. So not only can they still sidestep this, now, so that was just one movement where now they have to say this product was made with genetically engineered, you know, ingredients. So that's just one act. There are so many other things that do not have to be listed on an ingredient label if it is not mixed in with the actual food. For example, a cereal box. So there are some chemicals like BHT, and these the chemicals that are put in the food are to preserve them, but these are actually they're toxic to us. This is well known. So you'll see BHT, I think the other one's like BHA. They're these products that should not be in our bodies in any sense of the word. So some companies have some companies have actually sidestepped this, and they don't have to list this on their ingredients because it's no longer mixed in with the cereals. Now they use it in the bags that the cereals go in. So there are a lot of sneaky ways that we are getting exposed to toxins and chemicals that are known carcinogens or that are known. I mean, even some of them have reproductive warnings, some of them have endocrine disruptors within them, and we are taking these things in. So, say we are consistently exposing ourselves to these chemicals a little bit, okay, the body is really, really amazing. God has designed our bodies in such an amazing way. Our body can deal with some of the toxins that it's exposed to. However, if you are repeatedly pouring gasoline on this, after a while a fire will start, and it may not show up in the way that you think. It may show up in something on your skin, and you just you get some cortisone cream, you put it on there, and you keep it moving, and you think nothing else of it. When the body is actually showing a symptom of something that is going on much deeper that may have been persisting within your body, our body can only remove a certain amount of chemicals, and certain chemicals it cannot remove. So this is back in, I want to say it may have been, I'm going to be wrong about the year, so I won't even say it, but years and years and years and years ago, we knew that if, say, someone had too much lead in their system, that it would actually cause developmental issues in their brain and in their brain function. There are chemicals that the body cannot rid itself of, and there's so many toxins in our environment. The reason why I'm telling you all of these things is because I don't I'm this is these are certain things that I'm kind of uncovering myself, where it's like, okay, what, you know I got a little lax over the last couple of months when we were out of town, and we were eating way more things out than we ever do because it was easier, right? And isn't it always quote unquote easier until you end up with a situation where you're like, why do I feel so bad? But anyways, so having, I'm going to use this one for example. So anything that we get that is pre-made will typically have ingredients in it that we shouldn't be exposed to on a regular basis. Once in a while, the body can deal with it, but if your body is under any type of stress, if your body is under, whether that be physical stress or even emotional stress, changes the way that our digestive tract works, believe it or not. And if we're constantly exposed to this toxin, it will build up and build up and build up in the body. So if it cannot get out, or if it is constantly being bombarded with these different chemicals and toxins, it will react in some way. And all of these things, I I always have to give this disclaimer, but there's something that I'm going to share with you on this podcast that I am not currently going through, just came out of, or I am still in the thick of learning. And obviously, stewardship, that's the entire point. I'm trying to do the best that I can with what I know and trying to apply those things to my life through God's grace and trying to manage things as well as I can for His glory and with all that He's given me, including my body. And it's really interesting that a lot of the things that we are exposed to, we don't know because companies don't have to list certain things on their ingredient list. And we have made convenience such a normal part of our life, almost like it's a right that we have. Like it should not take us a long time to cook, and it should not, 30-minute meal and 20-minute meal. And I get it because I cook almost all of our meals. And I know that it can get, a little tiresome, but I also know, like anything else, there is a cost associated. Just like there's a cost associated with convenience, there's a cost associated with buying something, getting the bulk of our food from a package or from a drive-through or from a can or all of these different ways that we have made food easier to access, which is amazing, which is definitely a modern convenience. But with modern conveniences come modern problems. And we are now faced with things that we were not faced with before. So, how many kids have peanut allergies? How many people have chronic issues going on and there are no official quote unquote diagnoses for these things. It's just one of those, if you always have acid reflux or if you always have, you might have an ulcer or, whatever. It's like take this over the counter thing. But nothing is actually addressed when we throw over the counter. Don't get me wrong, I'm thankful we have them, but when we are just throwing over the counter medications at symptoms, we are only ever dumbing down the symptom instead of listening to it. These are things that we weren't taught. Most of the things that we learned about, even what quote unquote healthy food is, are things that were marketed to us by the very same companies that are using all of these toxic ingredients to, have greater margins to make more money. And isn't it interesting that the very things that are supposed to make our lives easier or better as opposed to constantly cooking or whatever, that's almost like the horrible thing anymore. It's almost like you cooked what or you made what from scratch or you made all that. And it's that now is not the norm for many people, and it's called the standard American diet for a reason, because many people, it is going through the drive-through. It is dealing with the heartburn and the indigestion and all of those things with the over-the-counter Metamucil, or trying to get more fiber in your diet through another packaged food item. And the irony in all of that, like it can't be lost. When we eat food in its whole state and we're getting the nutrients from that food and we're also getting the so, for example, the vegetables, we're actually getting that roughage in our stomach that it bulks up what it's supposed to bulk up and removes toxins from our bodies. As God used created our stomachs to remove toxins. We don't need to go into all of that. But the very things that we are not eating are the things that we end up supplementing again by another company of another man-made product. So the further that we get away from eating things the way that God created them, and don't get me wrong, there's certain things that, you know, for people that are in the military, my brother was in the military, and you have MREs, and they found these ways to package like 2,000 calories in this one package because of what the soldiers, had to endure. And I think that that is amazing, and that was a necessary convenience. However, when the convenience has become the lifestyle, what ends up happening is we have all of these issues that convenience brings. So when I say convenience, I mean things that are packaged, things that have to be fortified because they've been stripped of any actual nutrition. And in order to sell this product, they have to at least fortify it with all the things that were stripped away from it so they can call it food, basically. And we eat so many of these things and we take in so many of these things without a thought because it has become our lifestyle. And my tagline on my blog is managing a lifestyle of wellness and faith. And this is not something that happens overnight. It is, something that we manage. None of us is perfect. And we're not bad people if we eat fast food, and we're not bad, bad people if we eat a lot of packaged food. The point in all of this is the encouragement to look and to read and to just understand what we're taking in. Because I truly believe that it can be the most empowering thing that you can do for your family and for the health of yourself and for those that you love, is knowing what we're taking in so that when issues do arise, because we're in a fallen world and none of us, we're going to get sick, and things are going to happen. We're not living here forever, thank you God. And this is definitely not Eden. However, who doesn't want to feel as good as they can feel for as long as they can feel that good, in order to do the work that God's called us to do, in order to do all the different things that our life and our lifestyles and our jobs and things like that demand or require for us to do. So if you're, experiencing any chronic issue or anything like that, it is amazing to me how quickly we go in for a diagnosis, and the last place that we want to look is what we're doing most often, which is eating. So when it comes to how our bodies work and function, I remember when I got my certification, I got this invite to a workshop that was put on by this woman who literally she spent the last 20 something years studying environmental toxins and food toxins. And it was like an hour and 20 something minute presentation, and it was absolutely amazing. But I'll never forget, she said that every year there are literally thousands of new chemicals on the market, and that can be anything from to different types of pesticides, to different types of plasticizers, different types of herbicides, different types of preservatives, and all of these things. And she made the point that these things affect every single last one of us. Many of them don't have to go through a stringent approval process if they're used by certain companies, and they're said to not be used, near, you know, people, basically. But she made the point that there's nothing that happens in our environment that doesn't affect our environment, and things like, runoff from drainage systems, and when pesticides are used and herbicides are used and all of these different chemicals that are literally made to kill insects and different things like that, crops are being sprayed and whatnot. She was like, there's a runoff of all of these chemicals into water systems. It's not just, and she said, even if it was just being evaporated into the environment, these are volatile chemicals and they're man made chemicals. And she was just making the point that we still don't know what these things will do. And she was more of like the naturalist, environmentalist, and her point was, what are we leaving for the next generation? And I don't think she was a believer or anything like that, but I do also think that we're called to steward everything. That's a whole different subject. But the point that I was making was, There's so many chemicals and so many different things that are in our environment that persist in our environment, and many things we are taking in, as well as the different chemicals that we are just breathing in on from exhaust, or if we live in a place where there's a big field and the crops are being sprayed, if we're in a big city and there is a lot of air pollution, we're affected by all of these things. And with our modern conveniences, it is a modern problem. So when it comes to the body and the body's detox system, you'll hear people go say, they're on a detox diet and stuff like that. Most people aren't really going on a detox diet, because what that entails is a whole protocol, and it's not as simple as drinking some juice. It is so much deeper than that. I mean, you have to take binders so that when you are trying to detox certain things, that it binds to, say, charcoal, for example, is one of the ways that one of the most specific but binders that I can think of right now. There's a whole bunch of them, but that's a binder that people take if they've had to have their stomach pumped, and their bodies, our bodies cannot just get rid of things. So we have to take binders to move those things out. And when people are talking about doing detox diets and stuff like that, most of it is really surface level stuff, and it's really not getting rid of anything but a whole bunch of water weight. But it's not moving any toxins out of the system unless it's a really specific protocol using certain herbs. It's a whole thing, and nobody should just be willy-nilly doing them. God has also given us an amazing natural detox system. So we sweat, we urinate, we use the restroom. All of these we cry. These are all ways for our body to detox. Just the different things that our body is capable of doing. And the body is so complex, and it is so intricate and amazing, and it is resilient, but it is also extremely fragile when something is repeatedly happening over and over. So when it comes to my own wellness, that's my thought pattern. That's the way that I think about all of these things. So I start thinking, okay, what am I doing on my part that may or may not be contributing to the symptoms that I'm having? So getting to the root cause is it's a journey. I think health and wellness is a journey, because it's never something that you're going to arrive at, because we aren't, you know, I know this is, hopefully this is not sounding like a downer, but it needs to be said. If we don't take responsibility for our own wellness and we put that in the hands of someone else, no one's living in your body, and no one can look at all of the symptoms that you have and that you are experiencing and put all of these dots together, unless they're looking at your entire body system. They're not looking at this part over here, that part over here. They're not, just someone who you have a skin concern and they give you a cream. I'm not saying those things aren't helpful, but if it's something that's chronic, or if it's something that continues to show up, I would encourage you to get that on record. Definitely go to the doctor, and then ask questions. Share all the things that you've been experiencing and that you know about your own body. And from there, it's figuring out, is this the person that I need to be going to? Because thankfully there are many more options. There's functional medicine now where they look at the entire body. They're looking at how all the body systems work together, because our body is not this part and that part where it's not communicating to, the heart's not communicating with the lung. And no, everything is communicating. So if we can look at our body as an entire system, as a whole, you know, just from our brain to our cells to our um, our senses, all of these things are connected, which means all of these things, if one area, I think of like, even scripture says it, the body is one body, and when he was talking about the different um, gifts of people within the church, and he was making, Paul was, telling them, like, you can't, the hand can't say to the foot, I have no need of you. Like, this body, and it's such a picture, right? Because all of these things are working together. So the fact that I'm like, okay, what's going on with my skin? And why am I constantly having these reactions to food that I'm eating? What have I changed in my diet? What am I eating more of? Because that is going to give you way more information, believe it or not, than just, you know, trying to figure out what's wrong. After you figure out what's wrong, I have a headache, I'm going to go and take Tylenol. It's like, okay, what else can we look at though? Um, have you been staring at a screen? Do you have blue light blocking glasses? Was your neck in a weird position? Are you carrying a lot of stress? Did you sleep last night? What did you eat? So even a headache isn't always just a headache. It's caused by something. And when we start looking at things from that aspect, I truly believe we're more apt to get a root cause of what's going on. Because honestly, that's what it takes I truly believe that's what it takes for healing, is to get to the root cause of whatever it is that you're experiencing, whatever your symptoms may be. So I am going to be doing some specific things in my own in my own life for my own wellness that I will be sharing with you as I kind of unearth some of the things that are going on with me, and you know having to take nasal sprays and Claritin and throat coat tea constantly and echinacea and stinging nettle and all of these different things that these over the counter things, and these natural remedies that I've been taking. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And just having this inflammatory response to something that is either in my environment that is triggering how different things that I am taking in, that my body is doesn't seem to be able to deal with very well, is the best way that I can say it right now. I've been, just keeping track of the different things that I'm eating, making sure that I'm getting nutrients in, and I'm going to be honest with you, it is super frustrating. The first couple hours of the day, I'm sneezing my head off. I have changed so many different things in my diet to just try to figure out what the triggers are. And then also trying to take in some, just some extra support, things like vitamin C and zinc, these natural things, so that my body and my immune system isn't in hyperdrive, because that's what it feels like. And that's what autoimmunity is. Your body is literally in a state of inflammation, and it begins to do um, some really weird things that affect all different parts of your body. It can affect your skin, your hair, your sleep, your stomach, and so many of these things are tied to gut issues, because our immune system is literally on the outside of our intestines. And if our guts are not functioning properly, if the barrier's been compromised or disturbed, or really, really irritated, things can get into the body that really don't belong there. Then your body has an immune response because it starts sending out these antigens. It is a whole process. But I will be sharing what this process will be like for me, and what I'm doing, and what I believe um, this autoimmune situation might actually be. A lot of things that I'm reading, and one of the things that I'm doing, because I'm doing that elimination diet, when I say diet, it's not a diet to lose weight or anything like that. It's literally to get answers to see what my body is reacting to and what is not working well for me. So, this can, for you, so say, you're experiencing a lot of fatigue. This is your body giving you, other than the obvious things, not getting enough sleep, not eating enough calories sometimes, and your body just goes into the state of starvation, or, not getting, so, barring the obvious things like you're not sleeping, you're overworking, and things like that. Fatigue is often the body's way of showing you that, hey, something is stressing it, and it could be something on a mitochondrial level. It is so deep the way that God has made our bodies that knowing your body the best that you possibly can is so, so, so crucial and so beneficial. And I am definitely not going to get on this mic and act like I have it all together, because I am uncovering and picking up one rock after another to try to figure out what it is that is causing me to have all of these allergic reactions to things. So when it comes to, what was I going to share with you? Oh, so years ago, some of the things that I cut out were, well, I haven't had cow's dairy in going on 6 years, going on almost 7 years. And after I stopped doing that, my cystic acne went away. We were doing organic and everything, all of the things, but it's just something that it would wreak havoc on my stomach. I mean, it would hurt really, really bad. Even the lactose-free stuff, all of that stuff, it just did not work for me. And it caused me to have a whole lot of issues. So that's just an example of replace that with coconut milk, because coconut milk is a natural product and it's not a bunch of synthetic chemicals and thick, all the crazy stuff. I just use canned coconut milk. Just having that experience, I've had way more success eliminating things from my diet and just adding in a good alternative than I ever have taking any pills or having any of those things. There, I was having this horrible, I would show you pictures, but it's not fun. But all over my arms, they were inflamed and they were just, oh my gosh, really, really painful and irritated. And I cut certain things out of my diet and I have not experienced it since. Never, the cortisone cream didn't work anyways, because putting on something that soothes your skin doesn't actually address the problem of why is this even happening. It was kind of like eczema, but it was just really, it was really painful. So I'm sharing all of this to say that I truly believe that most things that we experience begin and end with food, and have our bodies are they're extremely resilient, but also extremely sensitive to many of the toxins that we're taking in, unknowingly many times taken in. But I would encourage you to look at the ingredients of anything that you buy in a package. And if you eat a lot of fast food or anything like that, I would definitely encourage you to look at the ingredients. Eating fast food once in a while, I think that that's the better approach when it comes to if you have any sort of chronic things going on or anything happening in your body and your wellness that you want to address. One of the best things to do is to cut out the excess chemicals so that your body can actually detox on its own the things that it can, and you're able to know what it feels like to feel good, because many of us don't even know what it's like to feel good because our body is constantly taxed with so many things. Like, life has its own stuff, you know what I mean? Life has its own stuff for us to deal with, and the fallen world that we live in, our own junk, our own sin, our own issues, than to constantly feel like crap because of the food that we're eating that cost us for that convenience. So check out, just pull up Google real quick and think of your favorite French fries from a certain fast food place and look at the ingredients in those things. We're talking about covered in sugar. Anything that ends in OSE is sugar, whether it's maltose, dextrose, anything that ends in IN, like dextrin, all of those things, that's all sugar. And we're eating like fries, deep fried, and covered in MSG, but they call it something else now because they can kind of fly under the radar if they call it flavoring. Or yeast extract is another word for MSG, just saying, same thing. So, we don't really know what we're eating unless we actually see the ingredients. And it is eye-opening. And I guarantee you, most of the things that we buy out to eat, we will never mimic the flavor of them because they are covered with flavoring agents that would blow your mind. It is crazy. I don't even want to go down that road because I will. But all of this to say, I'll keep you posted if you're interested. You can stay tuned for the different things that I'm trying, what I think is going on, and hopefully getting to the root cause of the stuff that I have going on with allergies and whatnot. So if you have any questions, if you have if there's anything that you're dealing with, I would love to hear how you are just trying to work through your own wellness journey, what that looks like for you. You can send me email, hello@styleandstewardship.com, and you can check out the YouTube channel. I've been sharing more food related, just recipes and things like that. I have some other ones that I've filmed that I need to edit and put up. Just if you're looking for a way to eat whole, real food, some of the things that I shop for on a regular basis. Not like I'm the standard or something. I'm not saying that by any means because everyone's health is completely different, because everyone's body is different. But I do like to share that just for ideas and just a reminder to eat whole, real food. And if you can cook it, you should cook it. I'm just saying. Because you know what you're putting in your food. So, until next time, your life matters. What you do with it matters. So what will you steward well?